Well, welcome everybody. I am super excited to have my very special guest this morning chit-chatting with us about all things Enneagram. But more importantly, Sharon has been a person in my life who not only is a really beautiful friend, has walked life's journeys, ups and downs, my pastor, coach, mentor, person who gives me a kick in the butt or calls me on, and that she's just one of those people that I feel so blessed to have in my life, and somebody that, you know, she's the type of person that everybody needs a Sharon in their life. That is how I would describe this amazing woman. All of that aside, though, she is married to Tim, God bless her. She has 3 amazing children with another 3 amazing in-laws as well. So a beautiful family. She is a pastor, as I said earlier on, trained as a social worker as well, but has a heart for just making things right in the world. And she is vocal about her opinions, and she will stand up for what is right. And that's what I just love so much about it. So thank you, Sharon, for agreeing to come and spend some time on today's podcast.
Oh, my pleasure. It's exciting. Love you heaps too. Love being around the energy of an 8.
And you'll all know more about that later.
No one has energy like an 8.
Oh, I tell you, it's been so funny. So for people who kind of have no idea, well, what is this Enneagram thing? All I can say to you is, you know, for me, it's been hilarious finding out. I'm 56 and I'm still finding stuff out about myself and about those near and dear to me. So, Sharon, can you tell us a little bit around Enneagram? It's not a new thing, but it's actually become quite, I suppose, trendy or popular, or there's more conversation around it. Can you tell us a little bit about like where it came from?
Well, it's just an ancient tool, and I guess there are conflicting thoughts about where it comes from. Some sort of say it comes through that astrological kind of roots. Others would say it comes down through the Catholic Church roots. So it kind of has an ancient history, and it has been around for a really long time, but it is having a resurgence. And I think it's having a resurgence because people are wanting to know who they are. I think that big question of who am I? What am I here for? And especially when you encounter things like COVID, like pandemics and, you know, those big life things, they make you ask those big serious questions about life. Who am I? What am I here for? Is this all that life's about? And the Enneagram wheel, it just helps you discover who you are, and it just finally tunes, just gives you that awareness of why you do what you do, how you do what you do, and also the fact that the way you do things and the way you think about the world, the way you perceive things is not how everybody else perceives it, thinks about it.
I don't know why not. I mean, seriously, I just don't know why not.
I know. It can be a bit confronting, can't it, when you first engage with it? Because all of a sudden you're exposed to your shadow side as well as all your strengths. So it can be quite confronting, but that's self-awareness, isn't it? Like,
that's one of the things I actually loved about it. It was kind of like, you know, because you can do lots of different, and I have done over the years, many of us have, we've done everything from DISC, you know, to Myers-Briggs to Strength Finder and all, and they all have benefits. They've all got things to bring to the table. However, there is just something about this journey, this Enneagram journey, that actually has been really illuminating. Both from the positive side, you kind of go, oh, that's why I do that. Alrighty, okay, this is what that's about. But then also from that shadow side, where you get to see how and why things trigger, you know, and also it gives you some tools around kind of leaning into kind of other numbers and how that can be powerful, and we'll kind of touch on that. But you alluded to it, and I think, you know, as we are recording this, we are now in April 2021. So 2020, I think we all got sent home to our rooms to think about life. You know, it was really, that was what it was. And so many people actually have spent this past kind of year nearly now in that just introversion type of kind of interest, whatever that word is,
introspection.
That's the word, where, you know, we really are taking kind of stock of, okay, well, if this was it, and that, you know, who am I? And like you say, why am I here? And is this all it is? I think that has been a real theme as I've been talking to people. That has been a real theme for this past year, that the pandemic has sent us all home to really just think about our lives. And the Enneagram, I think what it does is it actually opens up a door to the knowledge to help us to understand, so that as we step back out into the world, which, you know, both kind of, you know, well, figuratively, I mean, most of us are doing that now, right across the world. The doors are starting to open up again. Life is getting, in some places, some semblance of normality. But what does this new normal bring, and how do I actually want to show up in that? That's what I've found has been for me.
Yeah. So I've done 2 coaching sessions this week. One was with a young girl who's a 9 on the Enneagram, and the 9s, they bring peace to the world. That's who they are and what they are. And for her, just watching her, she's only 24. And for her, that was probably the first self-awareness thing that she's ever had in her entire life around her purpose. My purpose, the way I'm wired, the way I'm made, the way in which I respond to the world is to bring peace. And she was just delighted. She all of a sudden, her world just expanded. And then I met with another beautiful young girl who is a 2 on the Enneagram. And when I said to her, you know, the main thing you bring to the world is love. You have this incredible capacity to love, and the world just needs love at the moment. And we explored different career options. And again, you could just sort of see almost her heart just bursting out with pride. Oh, that's how I've been wired and equipped. And she was just so excited about that purpose that she had. And each of the 9 types on the Enneagram, you know, they each bring a purpose. Like, for example, you're an 8, and one of the things that you bring is action, but you also have this strong sense of social justice and wanting to protect and make things better for the world in which we live. And I mean, that's amazing. Just imagine if we didn't have the 8s with all that energy and that capacity to put things on the ground, with that heart for the underdog, with that heart for, you know, when things are going wrong, to right those wrongs. Just imagine how bad our world would be. We wouldn't have had the Mother Teresas.
Yeah, good company. It's good. And being married to a 1, like, you know, so it's been interesting because not only like am I learning so much about myself and understanding it in a little bit of a just a clearer way. There's just something about the simplicity of this that actually just makes, there's been so many aha moments, and we've had a number of coaching sessions around it, just even for myself. But it's also helped me to navigate some challenging times and some challenging conversations and challenging relationships, and kind of, you know, just help me to understand how I show up, but also how they might be showing up too, and how we can actually work together. So even for myself and Mick, being together now at this point in time, 39 years, again, we're still learning things. That's what I love about it too. It's been, you know, for people maybe at the beginning of relationships, but even for those of us who are way down the track, whether they're personal relationships or business relationships, professional relationships, there's still so much to learn, isn't there?
There is. So like 1s are your reformers. They're the ones that want to improve things. And again, they have a strong social justice thing, but they just want to improve. But they wake up with this inner critic happening in their head, and it's so strong and so sharp. So sometimes they can come over quite, I don't know, blunt, I suppose, in some ways, tactless. And so some other personality types can be really hurt by that. I know my son, he's married to a 1, and he reckons it's the best bit of marriage counselling they've ever done, because all of a sudden he understood that when she wakes up in the morning and she's grouchy, it's not that she's grouchy, it's just that she's just got this inner critic happening in her head, and it's just kind of like, what am I going to change today? What do I have to reform and make better today? Yeah. And then he's a 3 on the Enneagram, so his capacity for, like the 3s have so much energy, a bit like an 8. but they're concerned about productivity and efficiency and getting things done. And look, their ability to multitask, like nothing much would happen on the planet if we didn't have the threes. They just make things happen, and they just get in there, and their capacity to put things on the ground is just phenomenal. So for my daughter-in-law, who's the one, all of a sudden she understood why he keeps getting so many plates and how he loves to have them spinning. So for her, she found that quite a relief. So it was really, really cool. So it's a good thing for marriages. It's a good thing for individual growth, and it's great for teaming. It's great for teams in the workplace. So for example, one of our team members, he's a 5, and the 5s are your quiet specialists. So they're your thinkers. So they're quite happy if you give them a room with nobody around them.
Yeah.
And our 5, often if I want to find him, I'll find him in a dark room, hiding away from anybody. But what they do is the way they process information is incredible. So sometimes in our strategy meetings, he's come up with a solution totally outside of the box, or has been able to articulate a problem in a way in which I would never have thought about. And it's simply because of the way he thinks about everything. You know, I tend to feel more than I think.
Yep.
So to have someone like that on your team who's really good at thinking, it can unlock things. So for us, it's unlocked so much.
Yeah, I love that. I've had 2 of our internal team do it over the past few weeks as well, and so one's a 2 and one's a 1. So we're just looking at, you know, how I've actually got their reports here, and we're just kind of going to look around. You know, what does it look like? You know, how does that show up? How can we best work together? Because we've got to work quite closely together, and you know, as an 8 kind of thing, you know, sometimes I'm running before we've even really fully strategized what's happening.
Yeah,
you know,
before anybody's caught on to why you're running.
Exactly. And Mick often jokes, and now we understand why, but he often jokes about, I'm the person who's running to kind of get it all done kind of thing, and he's the one who's picking it up and actually making it better behind me. And now it makes total sense why that actually is. But it also too helps, it helps even just a simple thing. The other day, actually, we were driving back into Launceston before we were kind of flying back up to Newcastle, and we were in 2 separate cars because we were bringing back the ute and I had the hire car. And it was funny, like, so Dan rang to kind of go swing past where his work is so we can kind of grab one last hug, because he just knows that I like my hugs. And so I'm driving along and I put my indicator on to turn. I'm kind of going, okay, that's it. We're going to make that happen. Well, we were supposed to be meeting at a car park. So I'm going off kind of thing. And I put my indicator on a couple of times, well ahead, all the rest, thinking Mick's definitely seen me. It's good. It's all good kind of thing. And I'm gone. I'm off around the corner kind of thing. And then I said, where are you? And he says, I'm going to the car park where we were meeting. And I said, but did you not see he says, oh yeah, I just thought you were taking a different direction kind of thing. You were just going off on a tour. So I was instantly into, okay, we've got to pivot, got to change, off we go. And Mick was kind of going, this is what we said we were doing, so we're going. So of course I started to get a little bit, because I was getting a little bit frustrated, and then I kind of, hang on, Flame, it's okay. That's just the way he's wired, and that's just the way I'm wired, and we'll end up at the same place in the end. But it was interesting because there was that moment of me going into my, because 8s can be quite emotional and quite fiery.
Yeah.
And I just went, take a breath. Actually, no, it's okay. It's all good. It's not worth getting worked up about. And that's only me getting worked up, not about like Mick had no idea anything was going wrong.
Yeah. It takes a lot of anger out of things. And I find in the workplace, so I did a coaching with one of our staff last week. She's a young girl in the 9, she's a 9. So she's into, harmony and peace and all that kind of stuff. She works in our cafe, in our social enterprise cafe here. And one thing about the 9s is that they love routine, they love rhythm, and they love everything to be consistently the same. And cafe work doesn't always there's always stuff that happens in a cafe. But for her, understanding that she loves rhythm means that she can then go to her supervisor and say, hey, I function best in the morning shift. When you go through that process of opening up and you go through all those early morning routines and rhythms, they actually calm her. Whereas if she comes in, say, at 12 o'clock and she has to jump straight into service, or 11 o'clock comes into service, for her, that just throws her out. Whereas another worker, she's a 7 on the Enneagram, which means they love adventure, they love change, they love the spontaneity, they love, life's this great big adventure. So for her, coming in at lunchtime or at that 11 o'clock time, that's not a big deal for her. She can just jump into it. So all of a sudden, the supervisor has all this information about how his team can actually work and operate and how he can get the best thing out of the team simply by understanding how they're wired and how they're made. And that's what I love. I just love that it just helps us to pull out the best of people, but also for people to function best so that then they bring their best. And it's just all through that self-awareness of both self and of one another, and helping one another to understand each other. So it's just beautiful.
It's very, very powerful. And and the thing is too, that I think that what we can do, there's 9, they say that there are 9
personality types,
in there, kind of thing. And what I do love is that very thing, is just knowing, okay, how do people, even just understanding how they like to be appreciated, how it's best to communicate with them. Like it's very detailed. When you do an Enneagram report, I mean, there are lots of different versions and all that kind of things, but the one that Sharon recommends is the one that we've been using, and it's so detailed in the information that actually is in there. There are growth opportunities, there are awareness opportunities, there are information about where you go to when you're stressed. So, as a stressed 8, where might I go to? But as a really together 8, where might I lean into? Where can I pull the strengths from as well? So there are so many different facets of it that I would be suggesting to anybody to really consider, actually doing an Enneagram test, because I think that the benefits will really be absolutely so amazing when it comes to both just your own personal awareness of yourself, but then how you show up in your relationships and how you show up if you are a leader of any sort, whether that's a leader in an office or a business kind of thing, or even to all of our beautiful direct sellers as well, is looking at, as you're managing some of your team, as you're coming together and you're building, you're just going to show up differently on a day-to-day basis but you have the skills and the tools to be able to help show up in the best way for your team when you understand who they are, and more importantly, who you are.
Yeah, definitely. I remember we've got a 2 on staff, and for them, 2s find it really hard to ask for help. So when they ask for help, it's a big deal. And so if you don't provide the help when they actually finally get the courage to ask for help, they just cut you off emotionally. Like they'll still be friendly and nice because that's how they're wired, but there'll be a part of them that will never trust you again. So like if you're overseeing a team and you've got somebody on your team who's a 2 and they ask for help, say they message you and say, hey, I need help with this, and we don't pay attention to that, they won't ask again. They'll go elsewhere and ask for help somewhere else. So it's just all those little nuances that just help us to love one another, to appreciate one another, and to also understand what's healthy for us individually and what's not healthy, but also what we need to grow in and learn in. So I love it. I just think it's so freeing. And I think that's the thing I hear over and over again is that people feel free.
Yeah. That's
just to be themselves.
What prompted you to actually kind of go on this journey? Because it's not like you've not got enough on your plate already. But I know that you went down this journey to to really understand it and to study it, and then to become certified to be able to kind of teach it and guide people through it. What was the catalyst for that?
I guess because I'm in my 50s and I was trying to figure out the next 20 odd years, because I want life to be purposeful no matter what age I am. And I had a choice. I could either go back and get my mental health in social work and sort of step into more of that counselling kind of area. But I didn't want to do that because I felt like that's always coming from a more, I suppose, negative perspective.
Yeah.
And I just feel sometimes a lot of issues could be solved with just some self-awareness, more understanding of who you are. Some of those things that we might label as, I don't know, bordering on anxiety or depression, tension, those kinds of things. Sometimes I wonder whether some of that's just not a lack of self-awareness and a lack of development of self. So I guess for me, I wanted to come at it from a positive viewpoint. So, helping people discover who they are, why they respond the way they respond, giving them some tools to be resilient and courageous in the world in which we live, and to feel free. So I'm not saying there's not a place for counselling, and I'm not saying that there's not anxiety and there's not depression. I'm just saying that I feel like there's a grey area in there, and it's kind of in that grey area that I wanted. So I see the Enneagram as preventative for a lot of mental health, because I think the more aware you are, you can take action, you can be resilient in the world in which we live.
Yeah, I agree totally. Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, guys, what I will do is in the notes, in the show notes, you'll actually see some ways to be able to reach out and connect with Sharon, because you can kind of do the course or the test and all the rest kind of thing. However, what's even more powerful is having somebody like Sharon to actually walk through it, so that you actually really understand what's it's all about. I'm loving finding out more of it. I'm constantly listening to some of the resources that Sharon has shared with me. There's a book that's quite hilarious that I'm listening to on Audible, but it really does help you to kind of, understand, especially as you start to find out the people near and dear to you, what their numbers are. And I was listening to, one of my son's description, you kind of go, oh my gosh, yes. That. So if you're like a parent, with children, it's just a beautiful way to be able to even understand them more, so that you can actually look at your parenting. If you're somebody who's in a relationship, whether that is a love and life relationship or a friend's relationship, again, having a little bit more understanding. But most definitely, if you are somebody who is working with a team, it's a super powerful tool that will really kind of really free you up to be the best leader, mentor that you possibly can be. And at the end of the day, that's what we want to do. We want to be continuing to raise up people in a positive way that helps them to be better citizens of the world. I think that's really what it all ends up as, isn't it?
Yeah, well, we certainly need a lot more love, don't we, on planet Earth? There's a lot of scope there for growth.
Underpinning it all is love. At the end of the day, underpinning it all is love. And I think this helps us to love ourselves even more.
Yeah, and love each other.
And then love each other from that place, which is really powerful. So make sure that you check it out. I really encourage you to follow Sharon's page on Insta, Soul Keeping, and on Facebook. And then also I'll put her email details as well. So if you want any more information around the Enneagram, I absolutely encourage you to get in touch with Sharon. Thank you, darling, for sharing your passion with us. We're super excited.
Appreciate it.
No worries. Thank you all.